welcome to Shell's Pearls of Wisdom. Thank you for joining us today. I have another lovely pinup on the couch with me today. It is Brianna, aka
Sassy Scarlet.
Sassy Scarlet. I like that. I hope you're sassy with me today. Um, so I've been talking with Miss Brianna off camera, and I just trying to get a little bit of her backstory. And once again, I have another doozy of a woman on my interview. She is amazing. So far, just from what I know, I haven't got all the details, but I'm so interested in hearing the rest of her story and getting some like a little bit of more detail-oriented things. And she has a beautiful pearl of wisdom to share at the end. So please stick around and let's just see what she has to offer, because all these ladies have an amazing story to tell. So. Brianna, so you're 41 years of age, and I know you said that your birthday is coming up this month, and you'll be 42. Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
And she is from Lakeview, Michigan. She says she's kind of in the boonies out there by herself, poor thing. And she described her life as a bad Lifetime movie or a Lifetime movie. And I love Lifetime movies, so as soon as you said this, it perked my ears up, because I'm the kind of person that like all of them, even the B ones that have like Tori Spelling in them. I watch them all. I do. I watch them all. So trust me, as soon as you said Lifetime movie, I was kind of like, tell me more, because that is kind of like what I live for. But let's just get into a little bit about your childhood. Let's start with your mom and like how that dynamic was growing up.
Well, my mom was 16 when I was born, so that comes with its own issues, of course. She was just a child, and there was a lot to go along with it. She was very young, and my father, as far as I know, was 20. They took her to court for paternity. And it just didn't get much better from there. We had it tough because she was a single mother, and she had to work really hard to keep everything going. We did have, to get help from the state and things like that, which a lot of people look down on that. So when I was a kid, I was picked on for multiple reasons. I was heavier, and we were poor. And of course, I didn't have the greatest relationship with my mom. I resented her for a lot of stuff. And she actually, I think the earliest time that I remember things starting to get different was when I was 8, was when things started to get different. I started to notice that, my mom put a lot more, sorry about the dog.
Okay.
Mom she changed. She was still working, and she was still doing things, but she started to hang out with different people, and she started to do different things, and she was around less. And it was at that time that she actually really got involved in drugs and alcohol. So as a child, I remember, seeing people party and seeing bad behavior and seeing adults do things that adults shouldn't be doing. And it wasn't the greatest. My mom did as good as she could.
Cut you off there, but like for people out there that, just to kind of get a backstory, when you say that your mom had a addiction to alcohol and drugs, do you know what her drug of choice was?
I know that she abused cocaine, and I know that she abused prescription drugs as well. So,
did you ever see her take these things, or were you just knew?
I don't remember seeing her take any of the drugs, but I do remember seeing a lot of alcohol.
Okay. A
lot of substance abuse, and I think deep down I was a fairly wise child, so I think deep down I knew there was other stuff going on that was unhealthy. And I just remember at a very early age thinking, I don't want to be like that when I get older.
Yeah.
And it wasn't looking down on my mom, but looking down on the lifestyle. And not understanding the pain that went into the substance abuse and all of that, of course.
Right. No, that makes perfectly good sense. Just to kind of like let us relate to you even a little more so, can you share with us like one of the most, I guess, profound memories that stick out in your head when you think of like what you saw, where you were like, wow, I definitely do not want to be like this when I grow up.
Um, I remember hearing stories, a lot of stories, things that had happened to my mother. And then she had a friend, and they made fun of this woman pretty liberally because basically the first thing that she would do when they went out was get so drunk that she would get incapacitated to the point where she would pee her pants, and then men would try to take advantage of her. I just remember hearing a lot of things I shouldn't have heard. I saw plenty of things I shouldn't have seen, and I just knew it just gave me a yucky feeling.
Yeah.
It wasn't positive. I knew that it was bad.
Right. Now you said that your mom, several years later after having yourself, and then you have a younger sister who's about 6 years younger than you.
Hmm.
She did end up marrying a man who became your stepfather. How was
Yep.
that transition?
Well, when I was 9, my mother attempted suicide. She thought that my sister and I would be better off without her. She arranged for me to be with my grandparents and for my sister to be with my uncle. And thankfully, my uncle was a nurse, and he was able to bring my mother back from what she had taken, and
Wow.
she was able to go to rehab. She had been dating my stepfather before that,
Mhm.
and so they were married a year later. And of course, as a child, I thought here was where the fairy tale would finally start.
To go back,
Everything was
just to kind
going to
of, I
get
just want to ask a question. I'm so sorry.
No, you're
With
fine.
your mom and the attempted to the suicide, who found her? How did you know it happened?
My uncle found her. I don't know exactly what she had done, but I believe she had arranged for him to come to the house to get my sister and find her deceased.
Um,
Um, so he came and he found her alive, and she said that he punched her in the stomach and stuck his finger down her throat, and then he took her to a local hospital where they pumped her stomach and they saved her. He
oh
was a
wow.
nurse, so she was very blessed that my uncle was able to save her, and so were we,
Yeah.
because I just can't imagine having things end that way, and I'm really glad that that's not how that ended.
Yeah, because you were only 9
I
and
was
your sister's six
9.
years younger, so your sister's only like 2,
Yeah, she was very, very
like
young.
3, like yeah, 3 or like, wow, wow. Okay, so you thought your fairy tale was gonna happen when stepdad moved in, and
And
then
unfortunately, my stepdad had grown up in an abusive household.
oh,
So he had learned abuse, and that abuse started, and it was physical and emotional abuse. And I dealt with that the majority of the time that I lived at home. It wasn't until I was in high school, my best friend actually called my bluff. He said, "You did not, do XYZ to hurt yourself. Something's going on." He told some of the teachers what was going on, and they confronted me, and I told them the truth. And they they spoke to my parents, and things got better. My stepdad went into therapy, and things got a lot better from there.
what kind of abuse would you suffer?
Mostly physical abuse, hitting, and emotional abuse, a lot of belittling, a lot of, things that just kind of chipped away at the foundation.
You had a little bit of emotional and verbal. Yeah. So it's good that you had a friend that paid attention enough to know that you were kind of like putting the mask on, faking the funk, and that's good.
I was really lucky. I had my 2 best friends whom I'm still best friends with. Their names are Julie and Steve. Julie, she did as much as she could to, come over to my house, come here, do this, do that. And her parents were really awesome about it. And then Steve was just always a watchdog. He always wanted to make sure that everything was okay and that nobody was messing with me. And, it's just wonderful to know that I made connections like that when I was young. And it's so amazing that I'm still so blessed to have both of them in my life.
Yeah, definitely. Like, a lot of people don't have friendships that stem from like elementary school. That's crazy. So just to kind of like backtrack before we get into your elder years in elementary school and growing up, I remember you mentioned that kids are cruel and that you went through a little bit of suffering with like teasing and having that part of your life. How did that even like come about? What was that like, and what did you?
Well, I was heavier, and I had glasses at an early age, so there was that. They called me bubble butt, which now people get butt implants, so there you go.
I was going to say, I wish I had a bubble butt. I ain't got no booty.
They picked on me for being heavier. They picked on me for being poor. I didn't have the right clothes. I didn't have this. I didn't have that. Oh, your car, your parents dropped you off in your car and the muffler fell off and they had to fix it in front of the school. I got picked on for all of that stuff. And it chips away at your self-esteem. It chips away. And I also didn't live I lived in an abusive home too. So I had that to,
you didn't have
on
an
top
escape.
of it all.
Like, you didn't even have like a place to escape. Because if you have it at home and you have it at school, like, where is your sanctuary? Where is the place that you can retreat so that you can just have like a moment?
I was lucky that I had my grandparents. My grandparents, my retreat. My grandparents, really took care of things. And, my grandmother was born in 1920 and my grandfather was born in 1919. So that actually gave me the foundation that really laid everything for me being into pinup and vintage. And because I'm pretty sure they didn't throw anything away from the 40s on.
I know. I loved playing with my grandma's furs. Like, that was like my thing. Like, to go into her closet and it go through all her furs, and I kept one. I would lay on my bed and I would literally like have that as like my like luxury item as I like slept on this fur. And that's one of my fondest memories of my parents or my grandparents is that. So I totally get it.
I was lucky, their house was a sanctuary. I used to give them concerts when I was little. I'd make them go outside and I would be in the window. So it was like a stage. I mean, they were so kind.
Oh, that's a great idea though.
I was so lucky, to have my grandparents as a foundation in all of that. And I really learned that certain people, even if there wasn't a safe place for me, certain people were safe. And so that's what it was, is that I learned from an early age that as long as I had my people, I would be okay.
Oh, that's a great segue. So let's get into, so you went through high school, you had your two besties, and they kind of like you said, called your BS, and they were like, what's really going on? So that allowed for your home situation to get to a turnaround, which is amazing. I'm glad that your stepfather was able to get into counseling and start seeing the error of his own ways to allow for him to be a better person too, to allow you to be a better person. So let's move on to about age 20, and like you're out of high school, and what is your life like now?
Well, I went to work out of high school. I was going to go to college, but I decided that I wanted to work for a little while. And the idea of being separated from my grandma was pretty bad. My grandpa died from cancer when I was 16. And so we had a 2-year battle there. And so I was very close to grandma, and the idea of going away to school was really hard. So I said, well, I will work for a couple of years and I can do community college classes, which that didn't happen because I met my husband at work.
And he swept you off your feet, I'm assuming.
It was pretty immediate. He walked in the door and I was like, damn. And my best girlfriend was like, oh shit.
Like, we lost her. We lost her.
She knew. And we talked to each other and we became friends. And then it was so funny because one day I was like, I'll give him my phone number. And I felt like I was being all clever. And I stuck it in the pocket. We worked at a grocery store and they made us wear aprons. And I stuck my phone number in the pocket of his apron. And he said, my first thought was, why the hell is she sticking trash in my pocket? But thankfully, he realized it's not trash, and he called me the next day. And we've actually pretty much been together ever since. We had a couple of periods in there where we didn't date for a few months, but we've pretty much been together from about, I would say, we started dating officially in December of 1996.
Oh, wow.
So, and we met
How long
each
have you
other
been married
in
now?
We were married on July 3rd of 1998, so we'll be 21 years this year.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Congrats. I know with that being said that there was an in-between period that wasn't so happy. I'm glad that you guys made a full circle, but tell us about when things were not that great.
My son was born in 2000, and that came with its own set of challenges because he actually almost passed away when he was born.
Oh, wow.
And
What happened?
well, he had 2 blood clotting disorders, and there was something going on, and he ended up we had a really hard labor, and he was kind of stuck because his shoulders were so big. So we had an emergency C-section, but he was born unresponsive and went to the neonatal. And within 24 hours of being born, he had some seizures, and he actually had a stroke. They said they didn't know if he had 1 stroke or 2 because he had scarring on his brain. But it was a miracle. It was a miracle because people were praying, and, everybody was worrying. And, so many people put up prayers, and God decided that my son needed to survive. The doctors said they did not. The neurologist said he is a miracle from God. We did nothing. This all resolved on its own. He didn't have to have any surgery. He didn't.
Are you
And
serious?
yes. And when they told us, they said, developmentally, we don't know what to expect because he has scarring on his brain and he has damage. We never had any issues. He never had any more seizures.
Even with him being unresponsive, that means lack of oxygen to the brain. And
he was technically dead when he was born. They had to resuscitate him, and all of that happened, just it cemented my relationship with my husband. It cemented my faith
because
it was really so difficult.
Like, he was really meant to be here for him.
He really was. He really was. His name is Lennon.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, God bless him, because I work in the medical field, and I know a lot about neurological disorders and things of that nature. And to be deprived of oxygen for any amount of time can leave lasting, complications. So the fact that he was born unresponsive, meaning like they don't know how long he had not been breathing before they actually removed him from your body to be brought back.
It was incredible. And the doctor, it all was because a lot of doctors would have given up at the point where they were at.
Yeah.
And the pediatrician that was working on my son said that he had seen all of us at the hospital because I was there, my parents were there, my husband's parents were there, my sister was there.
The whole tribe came.
He said he saw how loved Lennon was before he was born, and he could not let him go. And so we were just blessed, we were just so blessed.
The best
and just
story. That is like the best. Like, I don't even know I could not just let him go. Like, that is a testament to that physician.
It really was.
Like, that is a testament to your family, because if it wasn't for him seeing that presence around and seeing everybody like that, he might not have even had that motivation. So, wow, kudos for you and your family showing that kind of love and support for something that was not even born or hours old, to show that much love, because that is what made him get through this. So, wow. You could be having a totally different conversation right now if this would have went different. Like, amazing.
I I know it could have ended differently, but I really don't even let myself entertain that fact because I just, the way that things happened and as fast as they happened, he was only in the neonatal for 1 week.
Wow.
With all of that happened, he was only in the neonatal for 1 week. And I mean, it truly was a miracle. There's no other way to put it.
There is no other way to put it. You're absolutely right. There's absolutely no other way to put that except for he's a miracle. And he's your miracle. And no matter how much they get on our nerves and they don't listen and they don't clean their room,
teenagers.
Other stuff that they do, he's still your baby and you still like look at him. I'm sure every once in a while you give him that look like, man, I love you. I love your little badass. I love it. So he was born when you were 22. And then what happens with you and your husband along your marriage?
Well, when my son was about 8, my husband's personality started to change a bit. And it took a couple of years for things to really hit the point where it got really terrible. But his behavior changed. His beliefs changed. He started believing in conspiracy theories and just some crazy stuff. And the conspiracy theories that he believed in changed his behavior towards my son and I. And so there was some verbal abuse and there were some issues there. And then it all culminated in him just disappearing. He just moved out.
Did he have like the feeling of people are like out to get him?
He did. He did. He felt as if people were, trying to get us to divorce. He felt as if people were spying on him at work. And, it all culminated. It was from about 2010 until he had a period from about 2010 until early 2013 where he would live at home and then he would move out and he would live at home and he would move out. And I had no idea. I knew he was sick. I could tell something wasn't right, but I couldn't get anybody to listen to me.
Yeah.
The only people that would listen were my parents. My mother had been an EMT. My uncle was a nurse. And another one of my uncles was schizophrenic. And my mother told me, she said, his behavior seems like maybe he's schizophrenic, Brianna. And I said, well, I don't know.
Can you turn on that light right there so I can have some power to my computer? It's my son. He's in the background. Thank you, babe. Thank you.
And so I knew that something wasn't right.
Right.
And I even tried to get a hold of places that did mental health around here, but it kind of came back to the same sort of thing, unfortunately, was they thought, well, this is a jealous wife whose husband has moved on with another woman and she's trying to control the situation. What they didn't understand was that I had seen the person that he was. I knew who he was. I knew what was normal and what wasn't. I knew he was sick.
And how old was he about then? Like 25, 24?
He was about 31.
Okay.
When I really started to notice things were different and when things started to really become kind of a roller coaster. Yeah. And then it was early 2000, he moved back into the house and things got a lot better with therapy and counseling and things of that nature from 2013 until he was diagnosed in early 2016. So he was home and we were able to help some things, but he was still having a lot of issues even when he was living at home steadily finally. And so it culminated in psychosis. And that's when people finally believed me. It took my husband getting to the point where he was talking to the walls. Oh, and wow. he put his hands around his neck until his face turned purple. And he was doing things like that. And even then, when I took him into the hospital, they still didn't want to commit him against his will, even though he had harmed himself. Yeah. I had to go to the court and I had to petition a judge to have him committed to save
involuntary, him. Admit it, being an invalid.
And unfortunately, at that point, our relationship was just, it was so volatile. I was 100% certain that as soon as he came out of the hospital, he would just divorce me
Mhm.
because I had hospitalized him against his will. But
Yeah.
thankfully, that isn't what happened.
Yeah. What you well, you know what? I feel like if that made a full circle for you because um I know when you were in high school you had the bestie that called you on your BS and was like, what's going on? And if it wasn't for him intervening and like not just listening to the BS that you were feeding them, no telling what had kept going on.
Exactly.
So you just did the same thing that they did for you. You had to take the bull by the horn, and you had
Well,
to
and
like,
a lot of wives would have left. A
yeah,
lot of wives would have been like, well,
yeah,
fine, he can go with her, he can have her. But I
right.
knew
Well, you skipped over that. A lot of us don't know that. I know that part that when he moved and left, that he left and was with another woman. So not only were you dealing with his mental and chemical imbalance, but now you also have to bear the burden of knowing that he was with another woman too, and you still stood by his side. Like
I
that's
I just will some of it, which may sound awful, but if people understand what it's like to be abused, some of it is that you don't expect that you deserve better.
yeah,
Some of it is that you think that all of this is somehow your fault,
yeah,
and that if you had just been better. And of course, dealing with a situation where a person is mentally ill, I actually did get a lot of that, well, it's your fault, and this is why I'm treating you the way that I am, and this is why. And some of it had to do with these terrible conspiracy theorists that are on the internet and on TV that tell people, well, women aren't equal to men, and there was just a multitude of terrible things that created and I hate to say it, but my husband wasn't in control of all of his behavior because of his illness.
yeah,
And so these people that prey, they prey on vulnerable people, they prey on people with weak minds. And it caused my husband to be abusive. It caused my husband to believe that women were trying to overcome men, and that women were trying to enslave men, and that men were being made to look like a laughing stock, and just these terrible things that these people with these small-minded weak people prey on others and prey on people's insecurities. And they prey on the fact that it's difficult when you can't control your life and your situation, and the world isn't a cuddly happy place. And
it's survival of the fittest. So they'll weed out the weak, and the strong will try to conquer. But you know what? He had a strong, even though you might not have been in the greatest mental state yourself because you allowed for it to carry on for so long. But you did at one point finally put your foot down and redirect it, and you got him help. And now you guys have been married for going on 21 years, and that is a beautiful thing with your son who survived like the unthinkable of any parent, anybody that's had a kid. That's like your worst night. That's
it
like
really is. And it just, like I said, it when I tell people the things that have happened, it is a Lifetime movie.
yeah.
There's
No, I'm ready to
so
put you.
many
I'm ready to
crazy
get a
ups and
producer.
downs.
We should call Tyler Perry and see if you're gonna put this on Lifetime. I'm sure he'll pick it up. But so we talked about like how your husband got diagnosed with bipolar, but things did get better.
They
Even
did.
after the infidelity, you still helped him. You still stuck by his side. Like you said, most women would have walked. Most women would have been like, but you stuck by him, and that is a beautiful thing. But there was still in between all of that, before you got to a better state, you still had a moment at 36 where you had a little bit of a you know.
When my husband was living away, he moved out in November of 2012. I was actually at my best friend's house, and I called him to ask him if he was picking my son up because my best friend lives 2 hours away. And he said, no, I'm not picking him up. I moved out. And this was the fourth time he moved out, but this was very, he actually stayed gone from early November until almost February of 2013. So he was gone for about 3 months. I didn't have a job. I'd been a stay-at-home mom all that time. So I didn't know if I would have any support. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was alone with my son, and I just honestly I hit rock bottom. I hit a point where I didn't feel like anybody cared. I
Right.
didn't feel like I had done with my life what I wanted. I felt I
Feeling
just
alone.
I just didn't I just got to a point where I was too tired.
Yeah.
I was too tired. I didn't want to keep going. I had a plan to take my own life, and um, it was not a good thing. Of course, it was awful, and I knew deep down it wasn't something that I wanted to do. But I just
You didn't feel
wanted
like
to.
you had an option. You didn't have
I
an
was so
out.
tired. I was
Yeah.
so tired, and I was so hurt, and I was so broken, and as crazy as it sounds, my Pomeranians were the ones who brought me through. We had just gotten the dogs a few months before, and I I needed to take care of them. They needed me. They were my babies. My son was with my mom, and I knew that he would be okay with my mom and my dad. I knew that he would be all right. I figured everybody would be better off without me, but the dogs, and then
Wow.
there was
Did you just hear what
church.
you said? Did you just hear what you said?
No, I didn't.
So you literally just had the same thought process as your mom. People would be better without me.
That's what I felt like. I just felt like I didn't have anything to give.
Yeah.
Obviously, with the way that everything had gone, and I just felt like I kind of felt like my entire identity was gone.
Yeah.
My identity as a wife, and my son didn't seem to need me because he had my parents, and I just felt as if everything couldn't get better, and it never was gonna get better, and I couldn't handle it not being better anymore.
Anytime people get to that, great way to put it, the rock bottom, it does. It feels like when you're at rock bottom, to give like a really good analogy, it's like if you climbed up the top of a mountain and then it had like a mudslide, and now you just got slid all the way back down. And now in your mind, you have to do this all over again. And you're exhausted from doing it the first time. So in your mind, you're like, I'll just lay here and die now because I don't have the heart, the energy, the strength to do this again.
It's
And then
so
that's
true.
when you hit, and that's why I love the rock bottom, because it's like climbing that big old rock and it just falls on you, and now you got to climb yourself out of it. And that is a true rock bottom.
But the thing is the nice thing about rock bottom is when you're at rock bottom and your face is in the mud, the only way to look is up.
Or you'll
So,
drown. You'll
you know,
suffocate.
exactly, either you can drown or you can look up. And I chose to look up. I threw myself into church. I threw myself into taking care of my dogs. I threw myself into whatever it was that would make me feel even the
Well,
smallest bit happy.
so that gives us a great transition into 38. What was so magnificent that you finally were like, you know what? Because you kept saying to yourself at one point, I'll do it when I'm skinny. I'll do it when I've lost this weight. I'll do it when I whatever. But you got to a point of your life where you were finally like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna do it now. And what was that? What was that day like when you decided to kind of take a step on the wild side?
Well, first of all, my nephew was born, and he was born with a bilateral club foot.
Oh,
And when we were looking through family photos, my sister-in-law saw a picture of me when I was a baby, and she said, she said, you're wearing the boots in the bar. You were born with club foot. And I said, well, my mom never told me that. I never knew. So I was, and that put into perspective part of the reason that I've always been heavier, that I've always had issues with exercising. My legs and my feet get sore to the point where I can barely stand it and things like that. So that put some of it into perspective for me, is that realizing that I have physical limitations that I wasn't aware of.
yeah.
And the other thing that happened, which was beautiful, was at the beginning of 2014, my sister-in-law decided to have a photo shoot. And this photo shoot was all about empowerment. It was about bringing together a group of diverse women. Most of us had never even met before, but we had all met Sarah through whatever. And so we all came together for this photo shoot called the Whimsical Women's Weekend. And it was supposed to be a whole bunch of women dressed up in beautiful dresses and beautiful outfits, wearing flower crowns, flitting through the spring forest. And instead, we ended up with 2 foot of snow. And so, this is a testament to my sister-in-law as well, is that she decided, we're not going to cancel. We're going to go out. We're going to put all of our pretties on, anybody who's game to do it, and we're just going to shoot in the snow. And it was magic. It really was. It was incredible. And it was the first time that I had come together with a group of girls. And I was terrified. I really was. I was terrified of women. I was terrified of women because I had had so many women be cruel to me growing up. I was terrified of women because, my husband had cheated on me. I was terrified of women for so many different reasons. Yep. And so coming together with this group of women and being able to actually bond with them and see that it isn't women as a whole, that it's a person by person thing. And that once you find your tribe, then you have unlocked like unlimited possibilities. Because when you bring a group of women together and they really want, oh man,
they cannot be stopped.
It was just, the whole thing was like, oh damn girl, you look great, you look gorgeous, you're so beautiful, you're so this. And then my sister-in-law, she runs Sarah Herzog Photography, and my sister-in-law is just, she loves people. She is a people person. She's an empowering person. And so when she's taking your pictures, she's like, yes, give it to me. Oh, so she's very vocal, and
I love that. That's like
that's this way of just bringing out all of your confidence and all of that.
Yes, I love it.
Fighting and what you're scared of, and so she just brought something. It brought something out of me that I hadn't had before. And then the pictures that we took, people saw them and they're like, "Oh, you should be a model." And I'm like, who are you talking to? Like, wait, me? Oh, it's me. And I was really taken aback by that, because I looked at myself, and I didn't look at myself in any kind of objective manner. I was so belittling to myself. I just looked at myself and I was like, you're fat, you're homely, you're this, you're never, just don't even worry about it. And then I got into this group and I got these women around me and I did these photos. And it was during that shoot that we actually talked to each other, and we had the flowers and stuff, and we decided that our next shoot should be a group pinup event.
And this is when the pinup world was introduced, and we are going to get into that part. So your first pinup shoot was with the squad, your mystical women squad, who did the snowy, beautiful fairy tale shoot. So now we get this photo shoot with your squad. Now you have a little taste of the world, and it tastes good. So not only did you do your first photo shoot, but then we start entering some contests too. So why don't you give us a little idea of what your first contest was like?
Okay, well, my first contest was Miss Metro Cruise 2015. Okay. And it was a very interesting experience. There was some ups and some downs. The biggest issue was that there was some stuff flying around after the contest saying that perhaps the judging hadn't been fair, and perhaps people had been, some people had been working underneath, to make and that really kind of tainted the experience. Yeah. But what I will tell you is, even though I would love to do more contests, but like I said, I'm rural, so there's a lot of travel involved. And I'm also just, as terrible as it sounds, I can sing on stage and it's second nature. As soon as I get on stage in pinup, I am all toes and I'm just like tripping over my feet. And I get so nervous and so awkward. Yeah. But the contest was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And I met, again, the most incredible group of women. I'm still
Yes.
friends with them. Most of us actually ended up participating in Pinups for Patriots while that was still going. We were actually the founders of the chapter here in Michigan. So we stayed together, and we actually still have a group called the Do Good Gals. And we still do events together. And our biggest event that we do yearly is the D-Day event over in Muskegon at the LST 393. So
Awesome.
I gained a whole other pinup sisterhood through this. And I mean, I would say, I think I am still friends with every single girl that I met at that contest. And most of us, you know, still talk regularly. We still vent and bitch to each other. You know, we ask each other's advice, and we show each other dresses. And it's just incredible because, like I said, I came from being absolutely terrified of women and being like, all women are the same. They're all bitches. I can't stand them. I'm only friends with guys and Julie. and then, you know, to go from that to just this huge universe of pinups.
It's life-changing. It was a
It's
life-changing.
incredible.
Yeah.
It really is. It's incredible.
This is what inspired me to do this, was from my first experience with pinup girls and experiencing that community and meeting the lovely ladies that I met in Milwaukee and in Detroit and in Chicago, that totally was like, where have you guys been all my life? Not all of you have like these larger than life personality like mine, where we're all kind of loud, and when we laugh, we're kind of like all loud about it. And like, you know, like we have like those big, you know, personalities. And then second of all, once again, I've been around so many like really nasty women who basically belittle you or make you feel uncomfortable in your skin. Like a lot of people think that we get dressed up as women for men, to look good for men. It's not even so much. It's like really the women, because we know they're going to talk so much crap about us that we actually try to go out looking pretty for the women, not for the men, because we don't want to be known as the one that doesn't have the right clothes.
Exactly. Because when we look good, it's like armor, and that shit just rolls off.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is just a great opportunity now for you to share your pearls of wisdom, Brianna. And I will leave you the floor. So here's Brianna's pearls of wisdom.
My pearl of wisdom is that every person is a universe of beauty. Every single person is unique. Every single person has so much to offer. If you look at the outside of a person, if you judge a person by race, if you judge them by religion, if you judge them by anything other than what is inside of them, you are missing out on so much, because you can only see just so much when you look at the surface of the water. But when you dive in, there is a whole new world there. So each person that comes into your life offers you this new universe to explore. Yeah. It's like it opens up, you know, a new rainbow to slide down into, and you get to discover new things. And sometimes you gain new interests, you gain new knowledge. You know, sometimes that person is brought into your life to teach you a lesson, but sometimes they are brought into your life because they are going to be a life bringer. Yeah. And the other thing that you know, with that being a universe of beauty is you yourself, your look, you and your personality. It is all completely unique. Nobody else on earth has to offer what you have to offer. You are necessary. You are needed, and nobody will be better off without you.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you said that last part, because that was something that two women in your life, you yourself included, have thought, and you were absolutely correct. You would not be, or this world would not be the same if they did not have you around. And that is just the truth of the nature. Like, that is true. And it's amazing that you're here. It's amazing that you've gone through what you've gone through. And you are a fighter, honey bunch. You are a fighter, because a lot of people would have went through what you went through and not would have made it out on the other side. So congratulations for that. Thank you for sharing your story with us today. Thank you for sharing your pearl. I am going to make it a point that we have to meet each other at some point when I'm up at the Michigan, when I'm in the Glove. When I come up there next time, we gotta see if we can, hook up the
If
link up.
quarantine ever ends.
I know. Don't remind me.
Hey, thank God we have the internet so we can all still connect.
I know, right? But thank you again, everybody out there that's watching Shell's Pearls of Wisdom. Thank you for tuning in for this another pinup beauty story. And just remember, pinups, we, survive the unthinkable to become the unstoppable. And that is what this group of women are. So thank you for joining me. Before you leave, if you haven't click like, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys the next time. Hang on for me, Brianna. I'm going to talk to you afterwards. Bye.